Imagine you are sitting in a massive movie theater, right? And there are three completely different films projecting onto the exact same screen at the exact same time.
Oh, that sounds like a headache.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, one is this high-stakes geopolitical war thriller. One is a tense, nail-biting financial disaster movie. And the third is like this bizarre mashup of a climate change documentary and a triumphant sports film.
Right. And the audio is completely overlasting.
Exactly. You are sitting there trying to watch all of them. The audio is just a mess, and it is entirely overwhelming. But today, we are taking the projector remote.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. We are diving into an extraordinary stack of notes directly from the Daily Tech Reader for Sunday, July 12, 2026, to, filter out the noise.
And there's a lot of noise this week.
There is. Our mission today is to connect the dots of what is rapidly shaping up to be the most chaotic and consequential week of 2026.
Without a doubt.
We are looking at a massive geopolitical escalation in the Middle East, record-breaking weather patterns, and an unprecedented financial pileup that analysts are calling Mega Tuesday.
Yeah, where multiple massive market events are just colliding on the exact same day.
Okay, let's unpack this.
To understand the sheer scale of the week ahead, we really have to start with the overnight news from the Gulf, because it is the geopolitical domino that threatens to knock over literally every other economic indicator we are going to discuss today.
Right.
The U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, struck roughly 140 Iranian military targets overnight.
Wow. 140.
Yeah, 140.
I mean, the logistics of coordinating a 140-target strike in a single night are just staggering. This is the biggest, most intensive U.S. assault since hostilities resumed just a few days ago on July 8th.
It's massive.
But here is where the narrative splits, and where I was reading the sources just sort of scratching my head, because we have a wild contradiction playing out in real time regarding the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh, yeah. The messaging is completely fractured.
Right. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps publicly announced that they have completely closed the strait. They claim they are actively firing on Kuwaiti oil infrastructure and Qatar, effectively shutting down the southern shipping corridor.
And yet the counter-narrative is equally aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, CENTCOM and the U.S. Navy's Joint Maritime Information Center are putting out statements directly disputing Iran's declaration of closure.
Completely contradicting them.
Exactly. They are telling the international shipping community that the southern Oman-hugging route through the strait is completely open for two-way traffic.
It is like having two traffic cops confidently giving completely opposite directions at the world's busiest intersection.
That's exactly what it's like.
Like, what is a commercial shipping captain supposed to do with that? Especially since Qatar is advising all vessels to temporarily suspend sailing anyway, which, leads to a massive question about the chain of command.
Right.
With the new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, completely missing from the public eye since his appointment, who is actually making the calls in Iran right now.
What's fascinating here is the absolute opacity of the Iranian leadership transition during a moment of profound crisis.
Yeah.
The supreme leader hasn't made a single public appearance, which means global intelligence agencies and analysts are entirely uncertain about the regime's internal decision-making process right now.
They're just guessing.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
The power dynamic between the military apparatus and the clerical leadership is essentially a black box. Yet, despite this fog of war, and despite the 140 military strikes, the diplomatic channels are somehow not dead.
Which kind of defies conventional logic, right? You would assume a bombing campaign of that magnitude would instantly sever all diplomatic ties.
You'd think so. But the stakes are simply too high for radio silence. U.S. officials actually confirmed that technical talks remain open.
Wait, really?
Yes. And Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi flew into Muscat to meet his Omani counterpart, specifically to discuss traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. Oman is stepping into this leadership vacuum in a massive way, drafting a new proposal to manage shipping traffic, which, has been the central sticking point blocking a permanent U.S.-Iran peace deal.
And Pakistan and Qatar are also desperately mediating, right? They're pressing both sides to salvage the June 17 Memorandum of Understanding.
They are, though it's worth noting Oman's foreign ministry did release a statement expressing dissatisfaction with what they call Iran's irresponsible acts, even as they push for this traffic management agreement.
Right. And as we look at this tangled web, especially with both sides trading accusations over the June 17 agreement, I just want to pause and make something very clear to you listening.
Good point.
Our goal here isn't to validate one side's political or military stance.
No, absolutely not.
Whether it's the U.S. and Iran or the situation with Israel and Lebanon, we are not taking sides. Our mission is just to impartially lay out the facts of these strikes and the diplomatic fallout exactly as the sources report them so you can see the whole board.
And seeing the whole board really requires looking at Lebanon, which exposes the fragility of that June 17 MOU.
Yeah, that's a key piece.
The source material notes that Israel is continuing to conduct drone and airstrikes in southern Lebanon, killing at least 2 people on Saturday. And this is happening despite a Hezbollah ceasefire.
Right.
So Iran is pointing directly at those Israeli strikes, insisting that they are a blatant violation of the June 17 Memorandum of Understanding, which, was intended to freeze hostilities on all fronts, including Lebanon.
So the UN Secretary General is issuing these urgent warnings about catastrophic consequences and calling for an immediate halt to all U.S.-Iran exchanges, while Gulf states condemn the attacks. I mean, every pulled string threatens to unravel the region.
Yeah, it really does.
But this unraveling doesn't just stay in the Middle East. It travels across the ocean, bypasses the political sphere entirely, and lands directly in your wallet.
Oh, yeah. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just a political boundary. I mean, it is the most critical choke point for global energy supplies. Roughly a fifth of the world's daily oil consumption passes through that narrow waterway.
A fifth? That's huge.
Right. So when there is a physical threat to those ships, the global market mechanisms react instantly.
And the reaction is already visible. I was looking at Brent crude, and it's spiking in early Sunday Asian trading. Energy analysts are warning that if this closure, or even just the threat of closure, is sustained, Brent could reverse all its recent easing trends.
Easily.
And it could sharply retest wartime highs near $120 a barrel.
Which is painful.
Extremely. And for you, the listener filling up their car this week, the national gas average held at $3.88 per gallon on Saturday. That is already about 70 cents higher than where we were a year ago.
Yeah, and analysts are warning this Hormuz escalation could push that average right back past the May high of $4.56.
Yikes. Plus, gold just broke above $4,130 an ounce as investors just, surge into safe haven assets.
Typical flight to safety.
But I have to push back on this market reaction for a second.
Okay, go for it.
If we just establish that back-channel talks are actually happening, that Oman is actively drafting traffic proposals and technical lines are still open.
Right.
Why are the commodities markets panicking so aggressively with gold and oil? Are investors just deciding to assume the diplomacy will fail?
Well, the financial markets don't operate on best-case scenarios during a crisis. They operate on algorithms calculating risk probability.
Okay, so it's a math game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even if traders believe there is, say, only a 20% chance the strait stays closed for a prolonged period, the economic devastation of that specific outcome is so severe that they have to price it in immediately.
I see.
They are buying gold and oil futures, not because they are certain the Oman talks will fail, but because the mathematical cost of being unhedged and underprotected if diplomacy collapses is just catastrophic to their portfolios. They are playing defense.
That makes sense. They are basically bracing for impact.
Precisely.
And that defensive posture is crashing headfirst into what is being called Mega Tuesday. Tuesday, July 14, is shaping up to be the most concentrated single-day financial event of the year.
It is a massive bottleneck of data.
Let's look at the pileup on the calendar. Before the opening bell, 5 major banks are reporting Q2 earnings. We're talking JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Citigroup.
Heavy hitters.
Right. Then, at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, the June Consumer Price Index data drops, and on top of all that, the new Federal Reserve Chair, Kevin Warsh, gives his first-ever congressional testimony.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the stakes for Mega Tuesday are astronomically high because of how these 3 events feed into one another.
Right, they aren't isolated.
Not at all. Money markets are already pricing in a quarter-point Fed rate hike as soon as September. If the geopolitical tension in the Middle East keeps energy prices high, that inflationary pressure bleeds directly into the June CPI data we are about to see.
It is like an economic pressure cooker. It's like scheduling a final exam, a root canal, and the Super Bowl on the exact same afternoon.
That is a great way to put it.
The CPI data turns up the heat. The geopolitical oil spike seals the lid, and the Fed testimony dictates whether we vent the steam or let the whole thing blow.
Exactly. If we get a hot CPI reading and Fed Chair Warsh uses his testimony to deliver a hawkish signal,
Which means?
which means he explicitly tells Congress that interest rates need to stay higher for longer to fight this stubborn inflation. If that happens, the entire timeline for economic recovery gets pushed back,
Wow.
which honestly exposes the massive illusion currently holding up the stock market.
Right. You have the S&P 500 posting its fourth winning week in 5, and the NASDAQ is up 1.7% on the week. But that headline success is entirely propped up by artificial intelligence.
Completely. Analysts project Q2 earnings growth above 20% for a second straight quarter. But AI-related companies, specifically led by NVIDIA and Micron, are expected to account for roughly 40% of the entire S&P 500's profit expansion.
It's like, imagine 500 rowers in a giant boat, but only 5 of them, the AI companies, are actually rowing.
That's a perfect visualization.
The boat is moving fast, so to a casual observer on the shore, the team looks incredibly successful. But if those 5 rowers get tired or hit a headwind of high interest rates, the whole ship stops because the other 495 aren't carrying their weight.
Yeah, that is the exact danger of market cap weighting. The broader market is masking profound underlying weakness. This is why the banking earnings on Tuesday morning are so crucial.
JP Morgan is really going to set the tone there.
Oh, absolutely. Their consensus earnings per share is projected at $5.44. Now, while that's up year over year, it's actually a drop from the previous quarter. But honestly, the raw EPS number isn't the most important takeaway.
What should we be looking at then?
The market is going to be laser-focused on their net interest margin trajectory. Basically, that's how much money the bank makes on the loans it issues versus what it pays out on consumer deposits.
Right, because that margin acts as the canary in the coal mine for the everyday consumer's financial health. If JP Morgan CTO Jamie Dimon gives guidance suggesting, consumers are draining their savings and defaulting on loans, it paints a very bleak macro outlook, totally regardless of what the AI tech stocks are doing.
Yeah, and moving from the market giants fighting for the economy, we're also seeing a massive shift with the entertainment giants fighting for your attention.
Netflix.
Yes, Netflix is reporting their earnings on Thursday, and the atmosphere over there is incredibly tense.
I bet. Their shares are down 22% year to date. And the Wall Street Journal just reported something that honestly made me laugh out loud when I read it.
What's that?
Netflix executives are actively exploring launching live television channels.
Oh, man.
Right. They're deeply concerned about flagging engagement trends, so subscriber and engagement data will absolutely dictate their stock's direction on Thursday. But let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Isn't Netflix pivoting to live TV essentially just reinventing the exact broadcast cable model that they spent the last decade aggressively trying to destroy?
It absolutely is, and this raises an important question about the psychology of consumer decision fatigue and the cyclical nature of media disruption.
We've gone in a complete circle.
We really have. We went through a massive period of unbundling where everything became strictly on demand and siloed across a dozen different apps. The promise was total control for the viewer.
Right, watch whatever you want, whenever you want.
But the reality of total control is that consumers are now paralyzed by the paradox of choice. We spend more time scrolling through menus trying to find something to watch than actually watching it.
Oh, I'm definitely guilty of that.
Same. And streamers are realizing that curated, scheduled, live programming, which removes the burden of choice from the viewer, actually drives incredibly sticky engagement.
It is deeply ironic. I mean, just look at the Emmy nominations that dropped on Thursday. Apple TV+, HBO, and Netflix claimed the overwhelming majority of the top category slots in drama, comedy, and limited series.
Dominating the prestige categories.
Dominating. Meanwhile, traditional broadcast networks hit their lowest combined nomination totals in Emmy history. Streaming has completely, unequivocally won the prestige war.
Right.
But because they are terrified of churn and decision fatigue, they are adopting the exact scheduling tactics of the legacy cable networks they just defeated.
It illustrates how raw engagement minutes rule everything in the modern attention economy. Quality gets you the Emmy, but mindless passive viewing keeps the subscriber paying month after month.
And the push for engagement minutes is getting a massive artificial boost this week, though. We can actually transition from streaming straight to the climate data through this concept of forced isolation.
Forced isolation, yeah.
Everyone is staying inside watching TV, not just because the content is great, but because the outside world is quite literally boiling.
Yeah, the physical environment is forcing a major change in consumer behavior. This is the second major heat dome of the summer, and the data is, frankly, staggering.
It's scary.
It is smashing records across the northern Rockies and the plains, creating extremes that are genuinely hard to comprehend. Billings, Montana, could hit 110 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wait, 110 in Montana?
Yes. If that happens, it will be the first time they have seen a temperature in the 110s, 92 years of record keeping, and Salt Lake City is nearing its all-time high of 107 degrees.
And this heat dome isn't just staying stationary in the west either. It begins expanding east on Sunday, hitting the upper Midwest by Monday, pushing into the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley by Tuesday.
Moving fast.
And it's blanketing the highly populated I-95 corridor by midweek. We are looking at heat indices forecast to reach between 105 and 115 degrees across the Midwest and South, with daily temperature records expected to fall from New England to the Mid-Atlantic around Wednesday.
You have extreme heat watches and warnings blanketing the country from Nevada all the way to Wisconsin.
Right.
This creates a scenario where millions of Americans are trapped indoors. They are hiding from historic heat, and arguably hiding from the anxiety of the geopolitical and economic news we literally just unpacked.
Which brings us back to the attention economy. Because what do millions of isolated, heat-trapped people do?
They turn on the television.
Exactly. And right now they are driving historic, record-shattering viewership for the World Cup. Fox and NBC Universal's Telemundo are reporting that the Saturday doubleheader drew the largest combined Saturday soccer audience in U.S. history.
Which is the holy grail for advertisers right now.
Oh, I'm sure.
In an era where streaming has fragmented audiences across 1,000 different niche shows, live sports remain the last DVR-proof communal viewing experience.
Everyone has to watch it at the same time.
Precisely. The escapism factor is incredibly powerful, especially when the real world feels this turbulent, which anchors traditional advertising models in a way scripted television no longer can.
And the tournament itself is delivering the exact kind of narrative drama that keeps people glued to the screen. All 4 quarterfinals are officially complete. France knocked out Morocco 2-0. Spain edged out Belgium 2-1 with a late winner from Marino. But those Saturday games were pure cinema.
The resilience shown in both of those matches was remarkable.
Yeah. Argentina outlasted Switzerland 3-1, but the score totally doesn't tell the story. Switzerland fought back to equalize in the second half, only to lose a player to a red card.
A brutal blow.
Right. So you have a 10-man Swiss squad holding off the defending champions until the 112th minute of extra time when Argentina's Alvarez hits the spectacular curling shot to finally break them. They move on to the semifinal in Atlanta on Wednesday.
Setting up a massive clash with England, who, had an equally dramatic path to advance.
England beats Norway 2-1, having to come from behind after an early Norwegian goal completely fooled their keeper. Jude Bellingham essentially put the entire English team on his back, scoring the equalizer and the extra-time winner.
Incredible performance.
It sends the Three Lions to their first semifinal since 2022. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Let me guess, the fallout in the English press.
Not just the press, the manager himself. Thomas Tuchel comes out after this historic, dramatic victory, a win that sends them to play the defending world champions, mind you, and publicly calls his own team lucky.
Wow.
He actually chides his players for sloppy tactics in front of the media. The pressure is so immense and the expectations are so astronomically high that a dramatic extra-time win in a World Cup quarterfinal isn't met with celebration, it's met with a scolding.
It is a reflection of the high-stakes environment permeating literally everything this week. And it's going to be a monumental few days in sports. We have that England versus Argentina match on Wednesday, but before that, the France versus Spain semifinal in Dallas happens on Tuesday.
At 3 p.m. Eastern, right in the middle of Mega Tuesday, while the markets are still digesting the bank earnings, the CPI data, and the Fed testimony.
It's all colliding. So to summarize the sheer density of what is facing you this week, you need to keep one eye on the price at your gas tank and the geopolitical fallout in the Gulf. One eye on your portfolio as inflation data and major banks collide with the Federal Reserve, and your remaining attention fixed on navigating the record heat outside and the historic World Cup matches on your television.
So, what does this all mean? When you step back and look at this entire stack of sources, the war, the markets, the media, the climate, what is the ultimate takeaway?
Well, I want to leave you with a broader philosophical question to ponder as you navigate the days ahead.
Okay, let's hear it.
We are currently watching 140 military strikes reshape the Middle East. We're staring down a potential global energy crisis at the Strait of Hormuz, and a 92-year record-breaking heat dome is fundamentally altering the physical environment for half the country.
It's a lot.
It is. All of this heavy, consequential reality is happening right now. Yet the stock market is still posting winning weeks, completely driven by the future promise of artificial intelligence. And we as a society are breaking viewership records, seeking refuge in soccer matches, and exploring live TV menus.
Right.
It forces us to ask, have our technological and entertainment bubbles become so incredibly robust that our financial and cultural markets are now completely detached from physical and geopolitical reality? Or is a historic reckoning inevitable, where the real world finally punctures the bubble?
Wow. That is a chilling question, and honestly, it captures exactly why we do this. We started this deep dive talking about a movie theater projecting 3 different overwhelming films onto the same screen. The trick isn't to close your eyes or let the noise wash over you. It's to learn how to focus on the underlying mechanisms driving the narrative. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep questioning the headlines, stay cool out there, and we will see you next time.